The most visible difference between humans may have begun as sunscreen. Not identity, not destiny, not worth. Sunscreen. At some point today, a human will look in a mirror and see the color of their own skin. They will not question it. It will feel permanent, ancient, personal, like something they simply are. But from outside the species, skin color looks less like identity and more like a record of sunlight. The first time we cataloged humans, we made the obvious mistake. We assumed the different colors were tribal markings, perhaps status signals, perhaps inherited uniforms. Many species use surface color this way, to warn, to attract, to hide, to claim territory. Humans did something stranger. They evolved a sunlight filter, forgot what it was for, and then built meaning on top of it. From orbit, the pattern is almost too clean. Near the equator, where ultraviolet radiation strikes the planet with force, human populations tend to be darker. Farther from the equator, where sunlight weakens and winter stretches across the year, many populations became lighter. The humans later argued about this pattern. Their bodies had already solved it. Skin is not just a covering, it is an interface between the body and the star above it. Human skin contains melanin, a pigment that absorbs ultraviolet radiation. Under intense sunlight, melanin is protection. It helps shield cells from damage. It also helps protect folate, a nutrient important for reproduction and fetal development. In high UV environments, dark skin was not symbolic. It was survival. This is where the human story begins. The ancestral condition for modern humans was darkly pigmented skin. The species emerged in Africa under powerful sunlight after earlier ancestors lost much of the body hair that once shielded them. Naked skin under equatorial radiation needed defense, so the body built one. More melanin, more protection, more surviving children. For a long time, the answer worked. Then, humans moved. Tens of thousands of years ago, groups of Homo sapiens began leaving Africa. They moved into lands where the sun sat lower in the sky, where winters lasted longer, where ultraviolet light could become too weak for the body's needs. And there, the equation reversed. The same melanin that protected the body near the equator could become a problem farther north. Human bodies need ultraviolet B light to make vitamin D in the skin. Vitamin D helps build bones, supports immune function, and matters for pregnancy and child development. Under strong sunlight, dark skin blocks danger while still letting enough light through. Under weak sunlight, it can block too much, so the body adjusted again. Not in one person, not in one lifetime, not because anyone chose it. Across many generations in low UV environments, variants that allowed more sunlight into the skin could become useful. Slightly more vitamin D, slightly stronger bones, slightly healthier pregnancies, slightly more surviving descendants. A small advantage, repeated long enough, becomes a population. This is not strange in biology. Cave animals lose pigment when pigment stops helping. High altitude populations adjust to thin air. Arctic animals change insulation, desert animals change heat management. A creature meets an environment. The body answers. What makes humans unusual is what happened next. They forgot the question, because the timeline is not what many humans imagine. A person in Northern Europe today might picture their ancient ancestors with pale skin, pale hair, and a face that looks familiar in a modern city. The ancient DNA complicates that image. Cheddar Man, who lived in Britain around 10,000 years ago, likely had dark skin, dark hair, and blue or green eyes. This was not just one strange individual. Other early European hunter-gatherers show a similar disruption of modern expectations. The eyes changed before the skin. That is the part worth pausing on. Humans are used to seeing certain traits travel together. Pale skin with pale eyes, dark skin with dark eyes, familiar combinations, modern categories. But the ancient body did not care about modern categories. It assembled traits according to time, migration, chance, diet, selection, and survival pressure. The face humans imagine as ancient may be recent. The combinations they treat as natural may be temporary. And the skin color associated with many modern Northern Europeans appears to have spread widely only within the last several thousand years, especially after major migrations, farming, and changing diets altered the conditions humans were living under. On the scale of human evolution, that is recent. Very recent. Close enough that the descendants of those populations eventually built myths about differences their ancestors had only recently acquired. Then comes the second reversal. Light skin did not evolve only once. The lighter skin common in parts of Europe and the lighter skin common in parts of East Asia developed through different genetic pathways. Same pressure, different solution. The sun asked the same biological question in different places, and the human body answered in more than one language. This is one of the cleanest observations in the entire human record. Humans often speak as if skin color reveals deep separation. The genome shows local experiments. The body did not divide humanity into separate kinds. It adjusted one species to different amounts of light. there were exceptions too. Some Arctic peoples lived under weak sunlight but did not become as light-skinned as latitude alone would predict. Their traditional diets, rich in fish and marine mammals, supplied vitamin D directly. When the environment did not provide enough light, food solved part of the problem. The body did not need one answer. It needed enough. This is why skin color cannot be reduced to a simple map. It is not just latitude, it is sunlight, diet, ancestry, migration, clothing, culture, and time interacting across generations. A survival compromise, a solar memory, a biological receipt from the journey. And then humans did the most human thing possible. They turned the receipt into a hierarchy. They took a trait shaped by ultraviolet radiation and made it carry social weight, beauty, status, belonging, fear, purity, difference, sometimes even human value. From outside the species, this is difficult to file cleanly. In most organisms we observe, pigmentation remains functional. It hides the creature, warms it, warns predators, attracts mates, or protects tissue. Humans turned pigmentation into a story about the soul. A sunlight filter became a birthright. A vitamin D compromise became identity. A migration record became a boundary. On our own world, surface color changes with radiation cycles. No one mistakes it for moral rank. But humans are not satisfied with function. They turn biology into meaning into tribe, and tribe into memory. This is why the mirror matters. Somewhere right now, a human is looking at their skin and feeling history in it. They are not wrong. The color does carry history. It carries the angle of the sun over their ancestors. It carries migration across deserts, forests, coasts, ice, mountains, and islands. It carries food, weather, pregnancy, childhood, survival, distance, and time. It carries thousands of quiet biological negotiations with a planet their species was still learning how to inhabit. But it does not carry what humans have sometimes forced it to carry. It does not carry worth. It does not carry intelligence. It does not carry destiny. An alien observer can map the ultraviolet radiation, read the ancient DNA, trace the migrations, mark the independent pathways, note the Arctic exception, catalog the 10,000-year-old man in Britain whose dark skin and pale eyes disturb modern assumptions. The record says one thing clearly. This species traveled far. Their bodies changed to survive the journey. And somewhere along the way, they mistook evidence of adaptation for evidence of separation. The skin still remembers the sun. The humans mostly forgot.